The Foundations for Leadership course and the Leading and Learning for Sustainability are really core programs we've done for almost 3 decades. They've evolved over the years, and the sustainability focus is relatively new on the Leading and Learning for Sustainability. But there's a core approach to developing people's capacities as leaders that has really been at the heart of our work for a very long time. And it comes around to a couple of simple ideas. One is human beings have innate leadership capability, and all we're really doing is helping people discover that. It's not about techniques and tools in some sense, although it is very practical, which I'll illustrate in just a minute. It's really about tapping that leader that is within us. So it's really beyond techniques. Now, to do that, you really need to create an environment that's very kind of hands-on. So the workshops are very experiential. 2/3 of the time you spend in practices, conversations with each other, looking at very practical issues, reflecting on your own vision, listening to people and talking with one another about your visions, looking at situations, difficult conversations that you might have where there's some important set of issues that aren't getting resolved, but then reflecting on what it is about the way you approach it that's causing some of those blockages. And everything you do like that, you're both doing with yourself and you're supporting someone else. So there's always continuous theme of reciprocity. In a sense, the puzzle that is at the heart of all this work is leadership is very personal, it's obviously very individual, and it's inherently collective. How do people develop the relational knowledge and the confidence together to be effective leaders? The experiential nature of the program is designed around a series of exercises. They have to do with personal vision, they have to do with working with mental models, tools like the ladder of inference. They have a lot to do with systems thinking. But with regard to each of those, we don't waste a lot of time with boring lectures. You might have a 10-minute presentation and then you immediately roll up your sleeves and take a tool and apply it. I've often felt one of the distinguishing features of all the work we do is about tools. It is very tool-oriented. I'm originally trained as an engineer. I really believe in tools, but I really believe the types of tools that matter are not only practical, they're developmental. So in using the tools, you're learning about yourself. The old joke, you need hammers to build buildings, but hammers also create carpenters. So it's in the use of a tool that you're developing a skill, an awareness, an ability to pay attention to your own thinking that you wouldn't have developed without that tool. The quality of relationships that people start to develop through this are very powerful. Although we never used the term in the early days when we did this, more and more we've started to discover that basically we're creating in microcosm a real learning community. So the people go through the program, they really get a tangible, emotional, hands-on feeling of what it's like to be part of a learning community. More than that, what it takes to create a learning community. I think that it's a slightly different but equally complete way to describe all this work is how do you build rich networks of relationships, of trust, of mutual learning, because that's what's robust. Consultants come and go. Training programs like this only last for a few days. You always have to be asking, well, what is it that endures? What is it that can have an aspect of it that really is naturally self-sustaining? And that really is the learning communities we build. The people leave the leadership course. I always love the closing, is always my favorite part, because we sit in a circle and people say whatever they want to say, but with no prompting whatsoever. Invariably, 2/3, 3/4 of the people thank each other. They say, oh, well, Peter, we're glad you were here, or Robert Hannig, or Beth Jander Noah, the folks who co-lead the program. We're glad you were here. It's sort of like, I feel like I'm saying, thanks for stopping by. But they thank each other because they have had such a tangible experience of being supported and supporting one another. Lastly, all this work is about a deeper space. I think there's a lot of great stuff written about leadership, But it's very hard to get a sense of the depth of the space that we need to open in ourselves in order to access this potential leader that's in all of us. And it's not like we're presuming that people have never done that. Of course, many people come in here with years of work in developing their own capacities as leaders. But regardless of how much work we've done, that space can always be opened a little bit more. So in a nutshell, at its essence, the leadership courses are about learning how to access, develop, and cultivate for oneself and others that deep space where we really see what's possible in ourselves and we see what's possible in one another. So I think that when people leave, usually they're quite deeply touched by that experience of going way beyond their rational understanding, way beyond even some superficial emotions. You know, there's obviously feelings of connection and listening to one another, but they've really tapped a deep space that's available to us as human beings. And that, more than anything, is what I love about doing the programs, co-creating the access to that deep space.